Fox Robbins Business Show. Great to have you back again. We've been at this since 2008, I think.
Yeah, right after the Civil War.
After the Civil War. This is the Fox Robbins Business Show. This show is all about developing your very best business ideas. And we are going to have a special guest today, Jacki Rivero, and we'll get to that in a second. In the meantime, I'm the co-host, Bill Fox, and the other co-host is none other than the thermoelectric, intrepid, torrid, and portentous Coach Robbins.
Mr. Bill, how are you? He uses words I've never heard of. He's a very smart man.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. That can't possibly be true. We're going to, as I said, we're going to have a great show today. It's going to be tips for creating an effective web presence on the internet.
That's a good one.
And our special guest, as I said, is Jacki Rivero. She's an IT project manager. And Jacki, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice
to see you.
Here.
Hi, Jack.
Nice to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your background, please.
I got into computers a long time ago, and eventually I ended up being a project manager and working on websites. At that time, I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, so we were really on the bleeding edge. I got to see what happens through all the different things that people do, the things that worked, the things that didn't work so much. So since moving out to the Cape in 2004, I have still remained involved in the computer field, although I've had other careers. I always seem to end up behind a PC fixing something. And so when I met these gentlemen at an American Business Women's Association meeting and they invited me to talk about the web, I thought, sure, great to share the knowledge.
Welcome.
Talking about the tips for web presence, we were talking just before the show that all businesses, small, medium, large, doesn't matter, all businesses have to be effective on the internet.
They better be today.
I mean, the internet has moved into our lives over the last 20 years, and it's there, and you have to deal with it.
It's a tool. You got to use a tool.
And sure, that's true for medium or large business, but for small business, it's an essential as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The other thing is, say, okay, websites say, oh, I have a website. Maybe you do. The thing is that the development and the technology on websites is moving. It's a moving target, and it moves rapidly, and you cannot go to sleep and say, oh, I've got a website I'm all taken care of, or I don't need one of those, or whatever your thinking might be. You have to have an effective website, and you've got to keep it up and be up with the latest technology.
Well, you can go to sleep, actually. I mean, survival is optional, actually. If you want to fail, go ahead.
But we're going to go, Jacki, into the introduction and start with information is moving fast, as we said a minute ago, and it's not a novelty, and you need savvy customers, and there's the 3-click rule. Could you tell us what your meaning is on these items?
Absolutely. As our hosts alluded to, everybody's on the internet. It is the #1 source that people look at for finding information. The novelty is lost. At one time, it was kind of a cool thing to have a web presence. People want information now. They want it fast, and they want to be direct about it. They're more savvy. They know how to navigate. They also have less patience. They want something right away. So one of the things that we learned was something that we call the 3-click rule. And what the 3-click rule basically says is if the customer can't find what he's looking for in 3 clicks, he's probably going to leave and find another website.
I read a book at least 10, maybe 12 years ago. I'm a fanatic reader of business books. Mm-hmm. And the title of the book tells you everything you need to know, really. The title of the book is Don't Make Me Think. If I have to think, if I have to go to your website and I can't figure it out very quickly within 2 or 3 clicks, the 4th click, I guarantee you, is the little X in the upper right. I'm gone.
True. Very true.
So here are here's your list of essential rules of thumb on websites, and could you help us and explain these? Avoiding clutter, avoid annoying graphics, mindful of image size, and provide contact info. Can you fill us in on these suggestions?
Absolutely. The most important thing about your website is to make it easy to read. Be very straightforward. So be very careful about what you put on each page. Navigation is essential, and if you're working with a web designer, you really want to map out how you get from one page to the next right away to make sure that you don't overwhelm the users. For example, say you're a jewelry designer. You might want to have one link that goes to the rings, another link that goes to necklaces, another link that goes to pins. That way people can target what they like. They see that you have a comprehensive inventory, but they know how to get to what they're looking for. Another thing is with annoying graphics. We see less of this now, but it still has been a problem. It dates back to the days when the internet was kind of a cool thing to do. We'd have flashy graphics, like say a gardening site that when you first log onto the web page, it will show seeds in the ground, and the seeds get watered and there's sunshine, and the next thing you know, we have flowers. And that's lovely, but it's a good bet that the gardener that clicked on that site already knew how that dynamic worked. So you really didn't need it, and it means the customer has to sit there and wait for these flowers to bloom before he or she can go about his business. Another thing is image size, especially since it's so easy to take pictures of things. Be sure you have a good quality image, but don't overwhelm it. We used to do something called down-resing, where we would actually reduce the quality of an image size. That means take it to lower number of pixels. You need an image that is going to be reflective of what it is you're selling, but you don't need something that is museum quality. It'd be great if someone put your product as their screensaver, but don't plan on it. And last but not least, it is very important to provide contact information. The customer should always have a way to get in touch with you in case they have questions about your product. And as a corollary to that, be sure you follow up. Check the emails or the phone number, whatever you provide, on a regular basis and respond.
Do you agree, and I tell my clients, when I come to your homepage, I want to see your phone number clearly. I don't want to scroll for it. I don't want to go to the contact page. I want your phone number at the top of every page.
That is a wonderful idea, and not just for small businesses. I think
Everybody.
that that's something that big businesses really don't understand.
That's right.
Is that you want a contact, you want a mechanism for contact, and so you scroll to the bottom of the page and it just says the business name or contact us. They're very evasive about where they're located or what they're doing, and it almost makes you suspicious.
You know how difficult that is? I mean, what Jackie's saying is you go on a website and I say, where are you? I mean, for whatever reason I have.
Yeah, you're lost.
And what difference does it matter what reason I have? I want to know, are you in Ohio or where are you? Or whatever. I can't find that. I may go, as you said, have to go way down to the bottom, scroll way down to the bottom of your thing, and then it'll say on there, contact. You go to that, it doesn't have an address. It doesn't have a phone number. It says, or it might just say, fill in this blank and email us. We don't want you to know where we are. We don't want you to contact us.
We don't want to make it easy.
But if you send us this message, we'll consider replying to you. I mean,
That is very
you
true.
got me started. I'm sorry. My fault.
Your fault, Jacki.
You have other additional rules of thumb. Jackie's search feature, checkout easy, make printing easy, design for all. Could you tell us, what are you talking about here?
Okay, the search feature, a lot of people have the means of developing their own websites. Some people use GoDaddy, or there's one in California I like that was called Fat Cow, or maybe you actually have hired a web designer. Be sure there's a search feature, because someone might have seen one of your products and they're looking for it. They might remember the name and they want to be able to find it right away. So it's really easy to add a search box. The next one would be making checkout
Where do
easy.
you do that? Where's the search box?
Oh, you would have a little line, usually at the top of the page,
Yeah.
where it says enter your criteria to search here.
Oh, yeah,
You
okay.
click
sure.
search.
Seen those?
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
search. Sure.
Most people don't have that, do they? I mean, is it?
Some do.
I'm trying to think. I mean,
Some
yes,
do.
yeah.
Certainly larger websites do.
Yeah.
It depends. But it's pretty easy to add that information. So, Another one is to make checkout easy. So the customer has purchased or identified what it was he or she wants to buy. There are lots of products that you can get involved in, like PayPal is probably one of the more popular ones. It's easy. There are various mechanisms that allow you to pay. The customer can check out and then wait for the product to be shipped. Another one is to ensure the page can be printed. This is actually something I've seen in European websites where you pull up a page and there's no way to print it unless you have a print screen facility. So be sure that you can actually, believe it or not, it happens, be sure you can actually print the page.
Right.
It's usually when you have subsequent frames or pop-ups that you'll run into that. And last but not least, this is one of my favorite stories, is to be sure it works on all platforms. A few years ago, I was working with a company that was having a web page developed. We hired this company, and we were so excited when we were told the page was ready to be checked out. Well, everything was all over the place on the screen. Nothing added up, nothing was where it was supposed to be. We visited the company, and it turns out he was designing everything on a state-of-the-art Mac with a 24-inch screen. I said, well, at that time, we were using PCs with a 15-inch screen and XP. And he said, well, there's your problem, upgrade. I thought, well, even if we had the resources to upgrade so that we all had state-of-the-art Macs with 24-inch screens, what about our customers? And he said, oh, well, that doesn't matter. In a couple of years, PCs will be obsolete. Everybody will be using Macs. That was several years ago. I think people are even still using XP these days.
Oh, right.
So the point of the story is, to be effective, be sure that most software will accommodate it, but be sure that your website is going to show up on every kind of platform. It might be a little tough to test in the Linux arena, but be sure that you work with Macs and PCs.
Right.
At least.
How about a page that'll
And a page that will
mobile,
load, yes,
yeah.
on the mobile phones.
Because
I didn't mean
Google
to forget
changed
that
their
at all.
algorithm a year ago, right? Yeah.
Incidentally, as we talk along on your rules of thumbs and other suggestions, approaching the website deal, we are invited in many occasions on a computer to do your own, do it yourself, DIY, or you can get a professional, whatever. What's your take? What's your experience? What do you say if a business owner said, I'll just go on one of these do-it-yourself things, and whatever, should I do that, or should I get a pro and to design my website for me?
I think if you don't have any experience in designing websites, it's really worth your while to talk to a pro, because they're going to be able to talk you out of some things that you probably shouldn't do, because they're aware of what the do's and don'ts aren't as well. They're going to be able to help you with navigation. That's a big part of it.
Huge.
How do I get from one page to the next? And they're also probably going to be more comfortable with graphics. So I would definitely recommend working with a pro. However, some businesses are so small, your best bet then, you may have no choice but to go with the do-it-yourself
right.
financially,
Yeah.
and just be informed. And also think about the websites that you like, what works, what doesn't work, what you like and what you don't like on other websites, and be sure to avoid those pitfalls if you can.
Well, there's also the time factor. That's the thing about small businesses is time. Is that if you're a small company,
Solopreneur.
how much time do you have to spend, working on a website design? Also, I mean, as much as you may want to, or try to save money. I mean, the time factor is an issue also.
Yes, absolutely.
Expertise. There are things that we want to avoid. These are, you've come up with a list of things to watch out for, including things like hidden prices, pay-to-play demands, contact membership. What is all this stuff? Explain this to us, will you please?
Help us, Jackie, help us.
One of the things about hidden prices, and this is another one of my favorite stories, I was working with some very large vendors back in the day, and they had not only unlimited resources, they had a vested interest. These were all internet companies, so they wanted to be sure this internet thing was going to take off. Well, we used to get a catalog for all the hardware that we bought, and they referred us to the website. It was so darn hard to navigate that website because they had hidden the prices. Usually I would spec out a machine, I'd figure out roughly what it would cost, then I could talk to my vendor and we would negotiate prices and move from there. On top of that, and this is the hidden price part, they wanted all of my contact and credit card information before I could even look at the inventory. Now I can tell you, I was buying upwards of $2 million worth of hardware. It wasn't going to go on my credit card. So these are the kind of things that kind of make people really uncomfortable, even if you're only selling a $10 item, to think that you can't even look at the item or even find out what it costs until you give that website all of your information, including your credit card. That makes people really uneasy. In all likelihood, they're going to click that little X and
The
say
X is the
goodbye.
next click, and we're gone to the next site.
All right.
And the pay-to-play demands.
Okay, pay-to-play demands, these are similar to what I just spoke about. They're very common still in what I call real estate and craft sites. So say, for example, you like to knit, and you've read that there is a free pattern on the internet. You go to that site, but before you can get to the free pattern, you have to give all your contact information. You have to tell them everything about you. Now, customers are savvy enough to know that not only does that site going to market to them, it might just be selling their information
That's right.
to somebody else. People get uncomfortable. Real estate websites, it's the same thing. You're searching for property. That's the #1 way for people to actually search for property these days. They find one they'd like more information. But before they can actually get any more information, they have to fill out all the information so that the broker can call them. It might work well for the broker, but the customer may not love that property and may not want to foresee a future of phone calls and emails pertaining to a property that they've lost interest in. So I would say avoid those pay-to-play kind of scenarios. If the customer is interested, he will contact you. And this goes back to make sure your contact information is available.
Right.
Another one is what we call restricted access. For some people, their web presence will be Facebook or LinkedIn. And you have the ability to allow a certain amount of material on those websites to be made to the public. If not, the public will have to become a Facebook user or a LinkedIn user or join that particular social media. Once again, a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. They don't want to join that social media. So be sure that if that's what you're using, people have access to what you want them to have access to.
And floaters.
Floaters, these are my favorite. These are things that float across the screen while you're in the middle of doing something else. So say, for example, surveys. You've pulled up something like an article in a newspaper on a website, and you're in the middle of reading the article, and something floats across your screen that says, would you like to take a survey on how well our site works? It's the last thing you really needed to see because you didn't log into that site hoping to take a survey. Another thing is clickbait. You've logged into a website, and I find the ISP sites are more notorious for this. This would be like a Verizon or a Comcast or an MSN.com. You're scrolling through, you see a list of articles that you might like to read, but just before you get a chance to click on that article, something comes up that is completely unrelated that you have no interest in. It might be something involving a celebrity or something like that, but it's not what you just wanted to scroll through, choose an article and read it. And last but not least, and these are hopefully something that's going away, these are cute images. We haven't really gone into this too much. I think that's probably on the next screen, sorry about that. Yeah, cute images. These are things like the kitten chasing a ball of yarn. It was cute when you first logged on, but if the kitten is continuing to chase that ball of yarn while you're trying to navigate through the site, it can get pretty annoying. Okay, so we kind of went a little bit out of order here. I think we're ready to go.
We want to go on to the next one? Okay.
Sure. Okay. As we continue on, another thing are frames and pop-ups, and these are the kinds of things that can't be blocked with your typical ad blockers. One of the most pernicious and despised are banner ads. These are ads, they typically will appear at the bottom of the screen or the side, along the side, and they're right next to your scroll bars, and they're placed there deliberately. They cover up part of what you're reading, and the hope is that as you scroll down, for example, to read something, because the bottom inch of the screen is covered up by a banner ad, you will accidentally click on that ad. The people who sell the ads for that site, one of the things that they report back to their clients are the number of times it was clicked. Now, think about it. If you accidentally clicked on an ad and all of a sudden your time is eaten up with this ad coming up for a product you're not interested in, is that going to give you a favorable impression of that particular product? Probably not.
Right.
So when you're developing your website, you really want to avoid these kinds of ads. You want to avoid having them on your site, and you want to avoid being them on somebody else's site. And another one is non-related simulcasts. These are much more epidemic, again, on news sites where Once again, you're reading an article and a little image pops up and it's a video of something. So say, for example, this morning I wanted to read about the obituary for John Glenn. The last thing I needed was for a simulcast for something coming up about the Kardashians. Really, I didn't need that covering up the screen.
Right.
So these are things you really want to be careful with.
Okay, you also have some tips on advertising on other websites. Tell us about that.
Okay, the bottom line of this is to avoid doing the things I just talked about. Like I said, people who are selling ads for other websites will try to sell you different types of ads. One of the things you also want to be concerned with is the nature of that website. It should be related to your product. Sometimes ads are sold in terms of what they call eyeballs. And that means the number of people that log into a site. So say you're the site for NASA. Certain people are going to log into NASA. They're interested in certain things, and they probably get hundreds or thousands of clicks a day. Your little website advertising maybe homemade jewelry would be on that website, and that website gets hundreds of thousands of clicks, but it's not likely that the people logging into NASA's website would be interested in your product. So be sure that where your advertising is appropriate. And as it says on the screen, avoid being all of the annoying things that we just talked about.
The floater, the pop-up, the
or a frame, right.
It's 1984, isn't it, already?
Isn't it?
1984, right? Because they know all about us.
Oh, yeah.
I look at golf clubs. I'm a pilot. I look at things that have to do with private, flying. And I can go to some websites, or I'll read articles about John Glenn, and right there in the middle of the article is something about a golf club.
Right,
Programmatic
exactly.
media buying, it's starting to irritate me, quite frankly.
That's a very good point, because they do actually track you, and they do exactly like what you said.
It's 1984.
Yep.
Orwell was right.
Yeah.
Now, some of the annoying features that you've talked about. If you're a small business person and you go the route to do your own website, it's unlikely that you'll have. Those annoying features take programming. You can't just. Or can you? If you design your own site, does the
Can
programming...
they invade your site?
No, they can invade your site, but it is, I got to admit, it is a weakness that people have. A lot of these tools will offer some of these things. For example, the kitten chasing a ball of yarn. It could be on a PTA site, it could be on a knitting site, it could be on a cat site, and it's really easy to just add it. And for a lot of neophytes, they think, wow, that's really cool, I like that, that's fun. And it's a little too easy to add. So it doesn't necessarily take as much programming as it used to. There's an awful lot of click and drag on some of these tools.
You gave us some examples of the use of websites that you consider to be effective or whatever. As good examples. Would you talk to us? Why did you recommend these, or what's good about this?
These are three of the winners in what was once a very heated war for various venues on the internet. Amazon's great. One of the things about Amazon is you log in, you look for your product, and up comes a product description. The way they advertise, and they do advertise, is underneath the product description, it might say, other customers who bought this product also bought these things. So it's your choice. It's not in your face, it doesn't float across the screen, and it might be interesting. I think it actually appeals to people. So for example, you're looking for a DVD of a television series, and it says, here's season 1, you might like season 2. You might like this other movie that some of the people in that television series were in. It's just a great way to advertise, and it's very minimalist.
See, I always thought Jeff Bezos knew me personally, because he said to me when I was looking for a book, Cliff, people who bought this book also bought some of these books, and I would click on that and that and that, and I'd buy them all.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
Jeff's
There you
smart
go.
guy.
Smart guy. Another one is Zillow, and I referenced real estate sites before. I did some time in the real estate industry, and there was a controversy because they want to get that information. They want to sell to you. That's what realtors do. They want to sell the product. Well, I think part of that zeal to sell the product and to collect all that customer information is what made Zillow so popular. You can join Zillow if you want. You can have a folder of all the properties that you're interested in, and certainly, like your golf clubs, Zillow will be happy to send along similar properties.
Right.
But you don't have to.
Yeah.
And Zillow will go out there
Give
and
you a
find
choice,
the information.
right.
And last but not least is Google. And actually, before the show started, we were having this conversation about how there used to be a number of search engines. There was Lycos, and there was Webcrawler, and there was Google.
Mosaic, I'm
Mosaic.
ancient.
There you go.
Oh,
Well, one of the things that made Google unique was there's nothing to Google except a bar where you put in what you want to find.
Pretty simple.
At the time when these search engines were proliferating, there was also a theory that everybody wanted a portal. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but
I
we
do.
had portals. And so in addition to the search engine, there was all kinds of other stuff on the site, and I can't even remember now. It's just this miasma of other stuff. Did you want a news feed or anything else? Almost kind of like what your ISPs will sometimes try to provide now.
Right.
Well, that was more than people wanted. Google put their time and their resources into developing a really fast, really effective search engine.
Right.
It's still a plain white screen with a bar. Sure, you can click on images if you want to narrow it, but
Right.
it's a plain white screen with a bar. That's what made it effective.
And I can save across the top my favorites, bookmark what I want. I don't need to look at everything else.
Exactly.
And Google changes the little Google every day or two, and it catches your eye, but it's nice, it's white, it's clean. I type in what I want, and I go to what I want in a matter of seconds.
Exactly. And
That's
when
what
they
I
do
want.
have those little special things, like they always celebrate Ada Lovelace's birthday. She's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You can click on it if you want, but you don't have to.
That's right. It's your choice.
So
well,
that's
great. Jacki, thank you. We're going to, I'm going to nail you down right now. You got to come back.
You promise?
okay.
Yeah, I've got you on camera, so
Okay.
you got to come back.
All right.
But,
I'd love to.
We
This
have
is great.
witnesses.
Uh-oh. I'll probably hear from web designers. They'll be calling in, who is this person?
Yeah, right.
Where does she live? We'll get her.
Thank you for being our guest. Great information, Coach.
Fabulous. Excellent.
And
Absolutely.
again, this is the Fox Robbins Business Show, all about developing your very best ideas. Feel free to send comments to foxrobbins@gmail.com and keep it clean anyway. If you,
Please.
Be nice.
Yeah, be nice, And no false news reports
Yes, no.
anymore.
Yeah, right.
No fake news reports. And thank you again, and we will see you next time.